Welcome to another edition of the Hoop Scoop Spotlight. In this series we're taking a look at the returning veterans. Now, Texas Tech has had so much roster turnover, seemingly year after year under Coach Beard, and all the spotlight goes to these newcomers, and rightfully so. I mean, we get excited about the shiny new toys, of course, in our life, and definitely for the teams we root for. And Tech fans want to hear about the new guys, the influx of talent, and we have covered that. I think I don't want to say we've exhausted it, but we've covered it from pretty much every which angle. Copy, video, podcast, all that on the new guys. So I thought, hey man, there are some veterans that are really going to make the core of this team next year that are returning, some really good players. Why not we show them some love? Because there's been requests for more basketball content here in these videos. So, that's what I'm doing. I talked about Kyler Edwards and Terrence Shannon, two guys I'm expecting a lot of next year in previous videos of these Hoop Scoop Spotlight. Now I want to talk about one of my all-time favorite Red Raiders already in terms of his personality, and that's Kevin McCullar. He's a guy I interviewed I don't know how many times through the recruiting process. Actually got to talk to him a little bit in the locker room, even though he didn't play on that NCAA tournament run 2 years ago. He was redshirting, of course. He reclassified, joined Tech early, redshirted, got healthy, coming off some injuries. And just a really impressive young man, well-spoken. The way he plays in terms of him being like the ultimate glue guy, but a guy with a lot of talent. He might lead you in scoring one night. He might lead you in rebounding. He might lead you in steals. He might be your best on-the-ball defender. In other words, he might be the best player on the court, but he's also the first guy to dive on the floor for a loose ball. That's the way he comes off in person, too. He's a former four-star guy, highly recruited, highly rated guy, but he has no air about him. He is not the kind of guy, the common star basketball player, star recruit, in terms of just kind of the way he carries himself. And it's refreshing. And honestly, it really goes well with the mentality in West Texas, and I love it. His dad, of course, Kevin McCullar Sr., was a linebacker for Spike Dykes in the 90s, played football, and you can see some of that kind of mentality rub off on him that he gets West Texas. Now, as far as his game, he started off kind of slow last season as he was still coming back from injuries and just kind of getting acclimated. He missed his senior year of high school. He was injured. And then his junior year, at the end of his junior year, and then came back from that, and then was here at Tech, waited his turn. And then once he got a lot of playing time, got more seasoning, you could really see him come on. And I think over the final 10 games or so, in my opinion, he was the best player, Texas Tech's best player. I think he was the best on-the-ball defender. He led them in rebounding in several games, which they really needed it. He led them in scoring in a couple of conference games. I think he had a high of 15 one game. I think it was at Oklahoma State, actually, where he was the only one who showed up offensively in that game. But I look back, and we had Matt Mooney on our radio show, on the Rockin' Pregame show on 101.1 The Beard. And Matt Mooney, it was like maybe a month, 6 weeks at most after the national championship was over. That season ended. He was still on campus. He was just about to move out away from Lubbock. And Mooney told me that he played Mac, as he's known, Kevin McCullar, one-on-one, and he barely beat him. And this is, Mooney was just a Final Four all-tournament team guy, playing at a really high level, and Mac gave him a run for his money. So that lets you know where that stood out to me, and that gives you an idea of what Kevin McCullar brings. I think he is the kind of guy who I think he's going to play professional basketball. I think he's going to make millions of dollars, either possibly in the NBA, but definitely somewhere professionally. But I do think he's a guy who might be here 3 more years. So 4 years, be up there in the record books in so many categories. I think he's the kind of guy that if you need him to score a lot, he can score a lot. If you need him to really pound the boards, he can do that. And if you need him to lock somebody up on the perimeter, he can do that as well. He can also mix it up and show a willingness to mix it up in the paint defensively and, of course, on the boards. So he also has great potential as a ball handler. And actually, Coach Beard has said he's thought about him as a point guard in many instances, despite being 6'7". So the versatility is basically exactly what Coach Beard looks for, and the mentality, the toughness. So the sky's the limit for Kevin McCullar. If he can consistently knock down open three-pointers, I think he'll be unstoppable, and I think he'll be an all Big 12 performer. I really expect that to happen. So I'm a huge fan of Kevin McCullar. I think he's going to be a big part of what this program does over the next 3 years, which I think, if there are seasons, if they're allowed, then I think they're going to do some really historic things around here once again. I think this program's is only headed for higher and higher reaches under Chris Beard. So I'm really excited. I think Kevin McCullar is going to be a big part of that. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.